Okay, we are going to learn about 5 great rabbis. We're going to have pictures, we're going to have stories, we're going to have a great time together. You're going to love this. So first of all, we should know that rabbis are not so special. What? How could you say that? It's true, they're just like you and me. Well, maybe I'm a rabbi, since Rabbi Pilichowski, so that doesn't really make sense to say that rabbis are just like you and me, because I'm just saying the same thing then. But it's true. Rabbis aren't special. They don't have anything special inside of them, or they don't have any special light coming out of them. We treat rabbis with kavod, with honor, because they know a lot of Torah, and they can help us teach Torah and learn Torah and understand the Torah. But rabbis don't have any special powers. We can't fly. Nope, can't fly. We can't do nisim. We can't do miracles. I can't take this empty bottle and make it full of water and go blah, 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 blah. Can't do that. But we know Torah. We can help you understand Torah. And that's what makes rabbis special. But not that rabbis have any special powers or anything like that. Okay, let's talk about our first rabbi. Now, these rabbis, we have pictures, but they're very, very old. And they're not really pictures. They're drawings, because these rabbis lived thousands and thousands of years ago. The first rabbi we have is a man by the name of Shimon HaTzadik. And Shimon HaTzadik, as you can tell by his name, was a tzaddik. Now you can see in this picture, this is a great story. Whoop, my hand disappeared. You can see in this picture, the man in the blue standing up is Shimon HaTzadik. And this is a drawing, obviously. It's not really him. And this is a picture of Alexander the Great, who was the leader of the whole world, bowing down to Shimon HaTzadik. Now, why would he have bowed down to Shimon HaTzadik? And the answer is because Shimon HaTzadik was the Kohen Gadol. He was the great Kohen who, in the Beis HaMikdash, was in charge. But he wasn't just the Kohen Gadol. He was the leader of the Jewish people after they came back to Eretz Yisrael. See, there was a time when the Jewish people had to leave Israel for 70 years because they didn't follow the Torah. And that's when the Purim story happened, and they lived in Bavel. And Shimon HaTzadik came back with them, and he was the first Kohen Gadol when they rebuilt the Beit HaMikdash. So when there was a second Beis HaMikdash, Shimon HaTzadik was the first Kohen Gadol, and he was also the leader of the Jewish people. Okay, so he was around. He lived in Bavel and in Eretz Yisrael. Like a lot of people, he wasn't born in Eretz Yisrael, but he got to live there afterwards because he moved to Eretz Yisrael. He made Aliyah. We say when you move to Eretz Yisrael, you're going up. So in Hebrew, that means Aliyah. So that's what he did. He moved up into Eretz Yisrael. And you can see he's wearing the clothes of the Kohen Gadol because he was the Kohen Gadol. And like we said, he was the leader of the Jewish people. But not only that, he taught everybody something very interesting. He said that the whole world rests on 3 things. It only stands up because of 3 things. Because of Torah learning, because of avoda, which means serving Hashem, like in davening, okay, or when there's a Beis HaMikdash with the korbanot, okay, al Torah, al avoda, and an gimilut chasadim, which means chesed, being nice to people, doing things like visiting them in the hospital when they're sick, having guests over, walking your guests outside the house. That's what he would do. That's what Shimon HaTzadik would do, those 3 things. And he said that the world can only last if everybody is doing those 3 things. If everybody's learning Torah, if everybody is doing avodas Hashem, like they're davening today, and if they're doing chesed, if they're being kind to other people and doing nice things to other people. If we do all 3 of those things, then the world stands. But without those 3 things, who knows what would happen? So the world stands on those 3 things. Okay, that's the first rabbi that we're going to look at. Here's the second rabbi, is Rebbe Akiva. Now, obviously, this is not really a picture of Rebbe Akiva. This is a drawing. And it says in this fake drawing book, it says he lived a long time ago. He was a great man. His name was Rebbe Akiva. And Rebbe Akiva lived 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years ago. It was a long time. Now, you should know that Rabbi Akiva became a big tzaddik, but when he was born, all the way until he was 40 years old, Rabbi Akiva never studied Torah. Not only that, Rabbi Akiva didn't like rabbis. He hated them because he was really jealous that they knew all this Torah, and he never had the chance to learn Torah. But at 40 years old, he decided, I'm going to start learning Torah. So Rebbe Akiva started to learn Torah, but only at 40 years old. And he lived to 120, so that means that he learned Torah for 80 years. Now, Rabbi Akiva wasn't, sometimes in your class, you'll have 10 other friends, 20 friends, maybe a big class will have 30 students in it. But Rabbi Akiva's class, he had, you ready for this? 24,000 students. He had 24,000 students. Isn't that amazing? That's how amazing Rabbi Akiva was. He had 24,000 students. Now, Rabbi Akiva, when he was 40 years old, he had to learn Torah, so he wanted to go to yeshiva. So he said to his new wife, he only got married at 40, he said, I should really learn Torah. And she said, you should really learn Torah. He said, but the yeshiva is so far away from me. How am I going to go back and forth every day? So she said, you should sleep there. He said, but if I sleep there for a night, when do I come home? So she said, Rabbi Akiva, well, she probably called him Akiva, I want you to go for 12 years. So he went for 12 years. And then when he came back, after 12 years, he was about to knock on the door. He hadn't seen his wife in 12 years, and he heard her talking inside the house. The walls weren't so thick then, so you could hear people talking. And he heard his wife, Rachel, say, you were gone. Rabbi Akiva, she was talking to her friend, and she said, my husband Akiva has been gone for 12 years, but you know what? If he wanted to stay another 12 years, I would let him. And Rabbi Akiva turned around, walked away, and went and studied Torah for another 12 years. And they studied Torah for 24 straight years without a break, without going home, without seeing his wife. But his wife was really happy because she knew that her husband, Akiva, was learning Torah and was going to be a big, big Talmid Chacham. And it turned out he was one of the biggest Talmidei Chachamim ever. Pretty impressive. Here's our next person, who's Hillel. Hillel HaZaken, they called him. Hillel, either the old person maybe, or Hillel was the wise person, okay? And he was very, very humble. In Hebrew, humble is anav, and a humble person is somebody who thinks that they're not so special. They say, I'm not that much better than the next guy. Now, Hillel was much better than the next guy. Hillel was a big tzaddik and a big Talmid Chacham. He knew more Torah than almost anybody else, but he never made other people feel like he knew more than them. He would always be very careful. So there was somebody that disagreed with Hillel a lot. His name was Shammai. And Hillel could have very well gotten up and given a shir and said, Shammai's wrong. I'm right. But that's not what he would do. The first thing he would do is teach Shammai's opinion. He would say, this is what Shammai thinks. It's not what I think, but it's what Shammai thinks. And that's what Hillel would say. And then he would say, but let me tell you how I look at it. He wouldn't say, let me tell you why I'm right. Nope. He would say, let me tell you how I look at it. And he was so humble, so modest, he would always teach Shammai's verse. Now, this is a strange picture of Hillel. What's he doing in here? I'll tell you what he's doing. Hillel was very poor, and he couldn't afford to pay to go to yeshiva. So one day he decided he was going to listen from the roof, but it started to snow, and he fell asleep, and he slept the whole night under the snow. Maybe one day we'll tell the story of Hillel and the snow. Okay, let's look at our next rabbi. Is someone named Rav Shimon bar Yochai. We told the story about Rav Shimon bar Yochai, if you remember, being in the cave. But Rav Shimon bar Yochai was very honest. He did not ever, not only did he not tell a lie, but he would always make sure that everybody knew how he felt. And one day, there were three people sitting around. Okay, there were three people sitting around. Rav Shimon bar Yochai was one of them, and there were two other Talmidei Chachamim, and they were talking about the people who were ruling Israel at the time. It's not like today when Jews are in charge of Israel. During Rav Shimon bar Yochai's time, there were evil people named the Romans who were ruling Israel at the time. And Rav Shimon bar Yochai lived in Israel. And the first person said, I love the Romans. They built roads in Eretz Yisrael, They've built places where water can go all over. So there's places to drink everywhere. The Romans are so good. And their friend sat there, listened to it, and he didn't say anything. And Rabbi Yochai said, no, it's not true. The Romans aren't good people. They're evil people. We have to tell the truth. And we have to say that they're evil, because if we don't say that they're evil, then people are going to think you should act like Romans. And the only reason why they built those roads was so that they could do more evil things. And the Romans found out, and they said, that's what Rabbi Yochai said about us. We're going to kill him. So Rabbi Yochai ran away and he hid, and he lived in a cave for many, 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 many years. He lived in a cave and he hid in the cave away from the Romans until it was safe for him to come out. Okay, the last rabbis we're going to talk about are actually two. It's a funny picture you have here. And the picture, I'll tell you what this picture is, okay? It is two big Rabbanim, Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Now, Reish Lakish, it's an interesting name. He was a really bad man, He was the worst thief in the whole wide world. The worst thief in the whole wide world. Really bad, really bad person. And Rabbi Yochanan was the greatest person, Rabbi Yochanan. He was the greatest rabbi, the greatest Talmid Chacham at the time, and everybody loved him. And one day they were swimming together in a lake. They didn't realize it, but one was on one side, one was the other, and they saw each other. And Reish Lakish said to Rabbi Yochanan, you are very good looking. It's a shame you're a boy. You should be a girl, and then I could marry you. Rabbi Yochanan said, actually, I have a sister that looks just like me. If you do tshuva and you start following the Torah and you start doing evil things, I'll let you marry my sister. And Reish Lakish did. And he started teaching Torah. Isn't that incredible? He started teaching Torah. It was amazing. And he became a big rabbi, just like Rabbi Yochanan. And they were brother-in-laws, right? Reish Lakish married Rabbi Yochanan's sister. And since they were related, they always learned Torah together, and they disagreed. And today, if you open up a sefer called a Mishnah or a Gemara, you can always find within every 3 pages, can't go 3 pages without seeing a disagreement between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Pretty cool, right? Okay, those were our 5 rabbis who we learned about. I hope you enjoyed this. Okay, and now we're going to go back. See you guys another time. Bye-bye.